Okay, so welcome to the Linear Therapy in Motion YouTube video. This is the first in what I hope to be a monthly video that will summarize our weekly blog. And both the videos and the blog will be accessible through our website at lineartherapy.com and also through our social media on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll put the links in the description. So what started all of this is I am just now putting the finishing touches on my first book, which should be available in the next month or two. And it's a book on self-treatment of acute and chronic neck and back pain, spinal conditions. Well, as I was writing the book, I realized that there's no way to self-treat spinal conditions unless you address the underlying root causes, which is poor spinal alignment due to bad postural habits and bad body mechanics, which are basically brought on by living in technological society with too much sitting and driving and desk work and computer work. And by the way, the 2,000 to 3,000 bends that we all do every day just doing routine daily tasks. So I thought that would be a great place to start as far as with our blog, and then on a monthly basis we'll be summarizing our blogs with a video, and they will be accessible, as I said, on our website lineartherapy.com and via social media. Now, I hope that as you're watching this, please bear with me because it's a learning curve. It's definitely a learning curve. And I've made some rookie mistakes right off the bat. In the first video, I made a rookie mistake of filming in portrait mode, which I cannot go back and undo. So I'm sorry about that. I will correct it down the road. The other thing is I was having some technical issues with my lapel microphone, so the audio in some places is bad. Please bear with me. I'm going to correct that also. So I look forward to blogging with you on a weekly basis and sharing a YouTube video once a month. If you like what you hear, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, make a comment. I try to respond to all comments and share it with your friends. It's all going to help the channel and we greatly appreciate it. Hello, my name's Warner Brock. I'm a physical therapist with over 35 years of experience in orthopedic sports and spine physical therapy, and I currently am in independent private practice. Over the past 4 weeks, we've been taking a deep dive into posture and its effect on our overall health. But what I'd like to do is give you just my short version of the way I feel posture impacts our health and well-being. All right, so I'm going to try to provide as many illustrations and graphics as I possibly can as we do a little overview of the posture. We're going to be talking about alignment of the spine, of course. So when you look at the spine, it's just bones stacked on top of one another, like little spools stacked on top of one another. But everybody knows we're not stacked up straight, right? We've got these little curves built in. So in the lower back, you have an inward curve. In the upper back, another outward curve. And then the neck, another inward curve, right? So the spine sort of snakes its way up like this, all right? As long as your spine is in this alignment, it's very, very happy, right? There's no pressure on the little cushion discs in here. There's no pressure on the joints where the bones come together. There's no pressure on any of the muscles or ligaments that run up the spine. The problem is we're never like that, okay? When I walk out into my waiting area, I don't see anybody sitting nice and tall, upright, okay? What do? Well, we're going to relax. Okay, it's called gravity. So as soon as we do, the lower spine rounds out. You can see the upper back rounds out, and then we get the nice forward head posture going, okay? So for most of our day, sitting, driving, desk work, computer work, looking at our phone, we are not in good postural alignment. We're not in good spinal alignment. And as soon as we're out of the S curve and into the C curve, there's 50% more strain on the lower back, shoulders, and neck. Combine that with how many times a day the average person bends over, which remarkably they've tracked it, anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 times a day for the average person. We bend forward. You think about it. You never see anybody bend backwards to pick up a box. You're not going to be seeing anybody out in their garden, hoeing, raking like this. Okay? Everything we do is down and forward, down and forward. So by the time we get to be 60, 70, 80, we're literally starting to look like we are hunched over and stuck in our daily postural dysfunctions. This is probably why we are literally at war with an epidemic of back pain in America. We have 8 out of 10 people getting back problems, 7 out of 10 people getting neck problems. There's millions of people on permanent disability from spinal conditions. There's 10 million people out of work today because their back is out of whack. All right? We do back surgery 9 times more frequently in this country than any other country in the world. Now, if you contrast that with, say, a third world country in Africa, back problems are unheard of. Back surgery is never performed. Why? Well, first of all, there's no computers. There's no internet, right? There's no cars. Everybody walks everywhere. There's no lazy boy recliners. Okay? There's no computers. There's no internet. There's no cell phones. They have primal posture. They don't have posture affected by technological society. And therefore, they are always in good spinal alignment. So, I guess the question is, living in a technological society, can we get back to that primal alignment, that optimal alignment? And I think it all starts with addressing posture, but not standing posture. If you think about it, when you look at somebody stand, everybody can stand straight. That's not where things go wrong. It's when we sit. So let's take a look at how can we address our sitting posture so that we correct things from the bottom up. And when I say bottom up, I really mean bottom up. We're going to be looking at the position of the pelvis, right? This is the base of the spine right here. As long as this base of the spine is in correct alignment, the rest of the spine is going to take care of itself. Where we go wrong is when we allow the base of the spine to give in to gravity and it rocks backwards, right? As soon as we do that, our posture is immediately under 50% more strain. Sitting, driving, desk work, computer work, all the things that we just talked about, okay? So where does postural correction begin? It begins in the sitting position, and it begins right here. Let's take a look at how we can correct our posture with a simple motion right away. Okay, so here we are. We're sitting, right? Now, if we don't have our bottom rocked forward, right? If we allow it to rock backward into the C curve, now we're in the C curve, okay? Notice how there is no amount of trying to pull my shoulders back that's going to help my posture. There's just no way, all right? So what we've got to do is we've got to begin right here. All we have to do is make sure that we bring our pelvis, our bottom, into this alignment. Now, if we can just do that, we can relax all of this, and there's literally nothing I can do. I would have to actually force myself into a bad position if I have this in the correct posture, right? So our postural alignment begins right here at the pelvis, right? So if here's bad, there's no way into a good posture from here. Here's good. There's literally hardly any way into a bad posture from here. So we start with getting control of our pelvis, right? We come up as high as we can, come up as high as you can. You'll feel the strainy pressure. Now, you just let off until you don't feel the strain. That is your perfect pelvic alignment right there. And then all you need to do is just adjust your chair so that it supports that pelvic. Don't trust your chair to do it for you, okay? You find the alignment and then adjust your chair so that it gives you the proper support right here. So once we learn how to get control of our pelvis to begin to correct our spinal alignment when sitting, driving, performing desk work, computer work, okay, then the only other influence that we need to correct is the bending, correct? We don't want to be bending our spine 2,000 to 3,000 times a day, putting 50% more strain with each and every bend. So how do we do that? All right, we've got to maintain that pelvic position when doing any kind of bending or lifting task, and it's called the hip hinge technique. Let me see if I can demonstrate. Okay, so let's say we're going to go pick something up, right? This would be a back hinge. Notice how I'm already beginning to round out this lower spine. I'm placing it under 50% more strain right away, okay? Now, the ladies in Indonesia that stay bent over in the rice paddies all day long, they never have back problems. Why? Because they've learned how to bend without bending. Let me demonstrate, okay? Here's how we hinge. We back hinge, right? Bad, 50% more strain. That's not what they do. What they do is called hip hinging. This stays bowed in as they hinge from the hips, and they can literally go all the way to the ground without ever grounding their spine. It stays bowed in because they've transferred the motion from the back hinge to the hip hinge. And the hips are designed to take it. The hips can take that kind of stress. They're very strong gluteal muscles, and the joints are very mobile. The spine is not designed to take that 3,000 times a day. If I take a coat hanger and I start bending it 2,000 to 3,000 times, how long is it going to last? But we expect our spines to take that kind of stress day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And that is why we have an epidemic of back problems in the United States. If you can learn how to properly perform the hip hinge, okay, and eliminate the back hinge, you never have to bend again as long as you live. Okay, so the hip hinge brings up a very important point, and that is the concept of mobility in the hips and stability in the spine. They both go hand in hand in decreasing the incidence and prevalence of back problems. If your hips are tight, you have a lack of flexibility in the hips, you're not going to be able to do the hip hinge properly, and that motion is going to be transferred into the lumbar spine, and it's going to cause that back hinge. It's going to result in 50% more strain, at least 50% more strain into the lumbar spine as you perform any type of routine daily activity which requires any kind of bending. So if your hamstrings are tight, if your hips are tight, if your calves are tight, it's going to affect your ability to perform the hip hinge motion adequately. So we've got to have proper hip mobility, which includes flexibility, and then we also have to have spine stability. Spinal stability or core strength has been shown to be very, very important in the long-term health of your spine. It seems to be that core strengthening for 15 minutes 3 times a week can drastically reduce long-term back problems, recurrence of back problems, and severity of back problems. Now, what should you do for core strengthening? Okay, there's 1,000 routines that you can do. I think the main thing is find something that you can perform, all right, that's something that you can enjoy to work into your regular exercise routine. But the key is 15 minutes 3 times a week. And hey, vary the routine, find new things. Now, if you're doing an exercise and it seems like it doesn't really agree with you, modify it. Do something different. Okay. Everybody says, well, what about X, Y, or Z exercise? Is that bad for me? Well, it can be bad for you, but it could be good for you. All right. So you have to try it first. If it seems like there's an exercise that just doesn't agree with you, switch to something else. It's just fine. So, hip and lower body flexibility seems to be key in reducing back problems and recurrence rates and severity, as does core strengthening. What else? Well, let's take a look. A regular walking program is excellent in reducing the incidence of back problems. Why? Well, because, think about it. If we are stuck at a desk all day long and possibly, getting a little slack with our S-curve and with our pelvic control because gravity still exists, okay? However, standing and walking puts the spine in good alignment, all right? So we're actually taking and reversing the stresses that are on the spine all day long. So I like to think of this as a back bank account, all right? Sitting, driving, desk work, computer work, 2,000 to 3,000 bends every day is sort of making withdrawals from your back bank account. So we want to put money back into our back bank account. Great, let's get into a proper posture, do a little walking program. So walking, flexibility, core stability, key in maintaining your spinal health. Okay, so let's just say, I don't know, Warner. That just seems like an awful lot. Seems like a lot of work, okay? Why should I even do all that? Okay, well, let's say you don't invest the time, all right? And you decide that it's okay, I'm not going to worry about getting my pelvic control, I'm not going to worry about my spinal alignment. Okay, the first thing that happens is you're going to start developing stresses, spinal compressions in these critical areas in the spine close to the nerves. Okay, so besides the strain on the muscles and the ligaments, all right, you're going to start getting compression around the spinal nerves. As soon as that happens, you begin to develop trigger points into the important muscles in the lower back and down the legs. Trigger points are a dysfunction where the nerve and muscle comes together that causes the muscle to be in a semi-contracted state 24 hours a day. So it's constantly compressing nerves and blood vessels that go down the legs. It can lead to sciatica. It can lead to sacroiliac joint dysfunction. It can lead to disc compressions as the trigger points compress the joints in the lower lumbar spine. Eventually, if you don't take steps to maintain your own spinal health, you're going to begin to develop advanced disc problems that may require back surgery. Back surgeries that can be successful. However, they're not guaranteed. And a lot of chronic pain in our country, 1 in 6 people now have chronic pain, is directly related to neck and back problems, which are totally preventable if you can just begin to take these steps to reduce the stress on your neck and back. In 35 years of clinical practice as a physical therapist, I have literally seen lives destroyed, they have no joy left in their life, nothing that brings them any happiness anymore because of chronic pain from totally preventable neck and back problems. And it just takes a little bit of investment. It takes about 2 to 3, 4 weeks to learn the techniques to where they become automatic, and you can prevent all kinds of long-term dysfunction and totally change the trajectory the trajectory of your life. So don't let a lack of action take your life in the wrong direction. You can start today, and it begins with learning how to keep your pelvic control. Sitting, driving, desk work, computer work, okay? Eliminating those 2,000 to 3,000 bends every day. getting on a regular walking program, maintaining the flexibility of your hips, and starting a core stability program, 15 minutes 3 times a week. It's a recipe for spinal health, and it is a recipe for happiness.